Welcome in, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. Nice to see some friends jumping into today's webinar. Once you jump in, please share your organization and where you're joining us from today and your role in that organization. So nice to see some friends. Hi, Legia. Nice that you're able to join us today from Canada. Hopefully it's a little cooler there than it is here in Florida. So like I said, once you're jumping in, please share in the chat where you're joining us from today and what your role is. Hi, Tammy. Oh, nice. Right here in Jacksonville. I'm in St. John, so we're neighbors. Very nice. Heather is joining us from the managing director of the nonprofit spot in Detroit, Michigan. What's the nonprofit spot? I want to learn more about that. What's a heat wave for Elysia? Was it like 80 degrees Fahrenheit there? We got Shannon joining us from Virginia. She's the senior communications analyst for local government. Wonderful. Director of major giving at a children's museum in Houston. I was just in Houston last week at a conference, at the Point of Light conference. I know you don't speak Fahrenheit, Leisha. We're weird here in the lower 48. We do things all differently. Matthew's joining us from Winnipeg. We got another Canadian on, gift coordinator with the Lutheran Foundation from Canada. Let's see where else we got. Chris with Laura Fronier. Dreyfus School of the Arts. My friend Chris. Love it. So glad you're able to join us today, Chris. We got Scott with the Livingston County, Illinois Boys and Girls Club Board Vice President Resource Development Committee Head. It's a lot of title there. I love it. Chris, we got someone else. Backyard, St. Augustine representing. Love it. Alpha Omega Miracle Home. I'm over in St. John, so right here. Patrick. He's probably actually the closest. Patrick is technically right down the street from me here in St. John. So nice that you could join us today, Patrick. We got Michelle from RG Foundation in Jacksonville. Love seeing all these local people here in Jax. Nice. All right, so okay, 90 degrees is hot for Elysia. I get that. Even up there on the lake, where you are in Canada, 90 degrees is hot anywhere. We got Hannah from Break Time Engagement. This is wonderful. Well, we're going to give it about another minute or two. Let some more friends jump in to join us. I see our friend Julia Campbell is here with us today. Thanks for joining us, Julia. And my virtual background is doing a weird thing, how it's masking my microphone here, so sorry about that. We got Patrick from Downtown Alliance in New York. Wonderful. Patrick, thanks for joining us. Yeah, hot there in Boston. I'm sure it's really hot. We got Ginger with KFA Nonprofit Funding Solutions. Wonderful. Jessica with ProPublica. Wonderful. I believe met you last week, 2 weeks ago at Planet Philanthropy. Heather with no introduction beyond what's up. So Heather needs no introduction. But thanks everybody for joining us today. If you are here for the power of prompting techniques to transform AI interactions, then you're in the right place. So a little bit of housekeeping. We are recording today's session. It will be sent out afterwards. So feel free to share that around. If you have any questions, please drop them into Q&A. It'll just be easier for me to track. I don't have anyone else on producing today, so I'm going to be managing the chat and Q&A as well. So leave chat for your interactions with your attendees, but if you have any direct questions throughout the webinar itself, please drop them into Q&A. I'm the sort of person who doesn't like to save 15 minutes for the end. I'd rather have your question answered real time, because your question will be relevant to the topic that we're talking about at the time and not 30 minutes from now. So keep that in mind, and let's jump in and have some fun. All right, let me share my screen with you all. And just drop in a chat. Make sure you can see that. Give me a thumbs up if we're good to go. Maybe someone wants to say yes, no? All right, thanks, Tammy. I appreciate it. All right, well, welcome everyone. Power of prompting techniques to transform AI interactions. Really excited about today's topic. We've only got about an hour together, so I'm going to try to get as much content in as possible. For me, whenever I like to present, I'm not just one of talking practice in theory to you. I want to actually show you how these great tools work and how we can make your lives better as a fund development and nonprofit professional. So we'll be spending a good bit of time at ChatGPT, and want to really look at how we can use one of your organizations as that model. And I think I already know who I'm going to choose. I'm going to choose my friend Chris Snyder and the Dreyfus School of the Arts. A little personal love there for my friend Chris in Palm Beach County. So we'll be using your organization later as our example there, Chris. All right, let's jump on in. So a little bit about myself. Hi, I'm Josh Hirsch. I'm the senior strategist with Sucrup Strategic Solutions. We are a full-service nonprofit consulting firm based in Naples, Florida, even though I live up here in Northeast Florida, St. John's, kind of between St. Augustine and Jacksonville. We have got staff all over the country. Our consultants are based all over. We provide fund development, board governance, strategic planning, communications, marketing, AI services, you name it. We're able to work with your organization. So that's my day job. And by night, I like to say I'm an adjunct faculty member for the fundraising school at Lilly Family School of Philanthropy. An incredible opportunity to continue with your ongoing professional development, which is why you're here today. We know that if we don't push ourselves, if we become stagnant, I hate to say it, but we get left behind. And especially in the world of AI, nothing has progressed as quickly in the world of nonprofits as we're seeing with AI. So it's important that you continue to push yourself from professional development, subscribing to blogs, attending webinars, whether you go on and get actual higher ed degrees through the Lilly Family School of Philanthropy, or you get certificates in fundraising management. There's something to push you further in your career. So we're going to start with a little interactive portion of today's show. So if you want to take out your phones, or you can go on your computer, and you're going to go to slido.com and enter in code 23321. And if you scan that QR code, it's going to take you directly to that site. So let's jump on over now. And what we're going to be doing is creating a live word cloud. And I want you to answer the question, when you think of artificial intelligence, what words come to mind? So like I said, you can sit there and scan the QR code, and it'll take you right here, or you can go to slido.com and enter in the code. I see people are participating, so I know it's working. And I always like to start my presentations with this, no matter where I am, whether it's a webinar or if it's in person. It helps me gain an understanding of the perspectives of those in the room, whether virtual or not, and really create a level playing field. You'll notice as certain words get answered multiple times, they become more prominent. So, automatically jumping out to me, helpful, 100%. I'm glad to see that people have that perspective when they're looking at overwhelming. Okay, so I'm glad you said overwhelming and not scary. And we do see some people writing scary in here, or intimidating. But I think it's overwhelming. That's a really perfect answer, because you just don't know where to begin. There is really so much potential with what you could do from all aspects of your nonprofit, not just, marketing communications. I think a lot of ways that people dip their toes into the world of AI is like, let me draft an email, let me draft a social media post. It's so much more than that. It's operational strategy. It's data analysis. And that's like the super nerdy stuff that I really like. It's how can I use my own data, and we'll look at this a little bit later, to make those informed decisions to help influence your strategy. 100% helpful. Efficiency, that's great. It's a time savings. It's absolutely evolving. What we saw a month ago is completely different now. We look at a couple of different models within ChatGPT, and I'm going to keep using the word ChatGPT. There's tons of different tools out there, but ChatGPT is a brand leader right now. They're the Tylenol, the Xerox, the Kleenex. They have that marketing share. But on top of that, it's a really great tool. I personally love the interactions and the way I can work with it. It's not about coding, right? So we're having a natural language conversation with the tool. And that's what it is. If you can think strategically and you can think creatively by identifying within your organization, and I hate the term, but like pain points, what are those problems within your organization? How can I reverse engineer that using AI to find those solutions? And that's, I'm that sort of person who wakes up every day. It's like, what can I accomplish today? Whether that's something personal, whether that's something for a client or for my organization, how can I be more helpful to be more efficient and save time? So this was great. I got one more quick poll here. So I want to know, are you currently using AI within your organization? So yes or no? And this will just give us an idea. All right, so we got about 2/3. Oh, wow. Look at that. 90% are currently using AI in your organization. Shifting a little bit back more there, 85-15. In chat, drop a couple ways that you are using AI right now in your organization. And let's take a quick look at that before we go a little further. I'm curious. And I see, Frank, you have your hand up. If you have a question, if you just want to drop it into Q&A, that'd be great. But in chat right now, how are you currently using AI within your organization? And let's just take a quick look. So drafting social media content and emails. We got new ways to word boilerplate letters. Love it. Press releases, editing writing samples, framing outlines, press release, social media, mass and individual donor emails, direct mail, drafting content. So it looks a lot of it in that marketing world. Sharon says, as a local government, we're developing some guidelines for use. Have to be very careful because AI hallucinations and potential for bias. Absolutely, Sharon. You're spot on. While we really won't be talking about any ethical considerations today, just because of our limit on time, 100%, if you are using AI in any capacity for your organization, you must, asterisk, have an AI usage policy, like without a doubt. I'll drop a link into chat to a great template that I like to use, but you need to have those guardrails, right? As an organization, you most likely have a gift acceptance policy. You probably have a data usage policy. I hope you have a social media usage policy, and you must have an AI usage policy for exactly what Sharon's talking about. We need to have those guidelines. Where are those guardrails that we can live within? Takes away all that gray area. Let me just drop that link here in the chat before we go any further, so you all have it. Here you go. Great AI usage policy template. Now, once again, it's just a template. It's somewhere to start from, but it's really helpful. And as you go further with your work in the world of AI. All right, let's jump back now into. Oh yeah, my pleasure, Sharon. Can use AI to set up your AI user strategy. Absolutely, I mean, Heather, 100%. I mean, that's the whole point, right? So how can we use these tools to make those data-informed decisions for us to make our lives easier? And a lot of times, even though we might have multiple people within our department, how can we use AI to make those strategy-informed decisions to help guide our AI strategy, help guide our organizational strategy, fund development, communications? There's so many ways that we can use it. So as we saw that word overwhelming became really prominent, that's the case. It's because, like, where do I begin? And we saw a lot of people were saying, social media, email, great entryway into AI, and all the different ways of using it. Now, there's two houses within AI. You've got predictive AI, which is like predictive analysis using statistic modeling to help inform your strategy. Much higher level thinking, something that I certainly encourage everyone to consider. But it's the generative AI, which we're going to be talking about mainly today. That's the easy way in, getting your toes wet into it, like we saw, drafting those emails, helping with content. That's a great way to start. So what are the learning objectives we're going to cover today? So looking at those fundamentals of prompt engineering. At its core, the two main things, no matter what GPT, which is the actual tool, ChatGPT, Google Gemini, Perplexity, Claude, those are just a few. Like I said, there's tons of them out there. How can I take the concept of prompt engineering, which is just talking to the computer, and apply that to everywhere? If you understand how to do this at its core, it doesn't matter what tool you're using. So you're going to hear me harp upon prompting and training. Those are the key things. Beyond that, what are some advanced strategies? How can we actually have AI, and I'm not going to use the word think for itself, but question its answers to make further, deeper informed decisions? One of my favorite tricks, and I will try to show it a little later, is a simple prompt. And keep in mind, when we're doing our iteration, 9 times out of 10, your first output is not going to be your final output. You're going to need to do further iterations, digging a little deeper. But at times, I like to, and I'm not loving what I'm seeing, I'll do a prompt that says, stop, take a deep breath. Are you sure this is the best that you can do? And there's been scientific studies that have shown, there was a research study at MIT. I'll try to find it and drop it into the chat here a little bit later. That it actually performed better after you told it to stop and take a deep breath. And then that other part, are you sure you're doing your best job? The best that you can do. That's me goading it a little. Like I will push back and be like, I know this isn't your best work. My job is on the line. Please help me do a better job. The stop and take a deep breath, I like to think about it is that ChatGPT or whatever tool you're using is trying to guess the next word. And that's at its core what generative AI. It's about prompting and pattern generation. So it wants to get you something and make you as happy as possible. That's why we saw Sharon mention about the biases and the hallucinations. Absolutely. AI will make up stuff, right? Because it wants to, based upon those best practices that it's pulling in those trillions of data points from around the world within its LLM, that large language model, which you can think about as just a giant database of data points. So it's thinking about what's that next word to give you. And sometimes it wants to answer as quickly as it can to make you happy. And it's not as best as it could. So stop and take a deep breath works wonders. Like I said, we're going to look at that different feedback loops. How can we look at different ways to question ChatGPT and have it think about its own outputs and improve upon that? And then lastly, we're going to look at how we can apply it practically. So we're going to do some time within ChatGPT itself. We're going to use the Dreyfus School of the Arts as our example organization as we go through some different content generation. So anytime that we look at AI, I like to think about it as having two brains. ChatGPT, generative AI, is the best thing that's ever come around. However, think about it as a highly skilled, highly trained, unpaid intern. It's going to do a good job, but it needs its hand held. That's why we're never 100% trusting at face value the content that it puts out. We want to ensure that it's in our brand voice, that it's in our brand tone. So anytime I take an output, even after I've gone through 5, 6, 7 different iterations deep, I'm going to bring that content into Google Docs, Microsoft Word, further revise, further edit, so we ensure that it is us, and we're never going to lose that human element of AI, right? Even when the day comes and the robots take over, there's still going to need someone to push the buttons, and at that point, we need to ensure that we still maintain our humanity within our content, and that's the most important part. We don't want us to just rely upon a tool because we had this tool available to us and set it and forget it. We need to ensure that the content is in line with who we are. And a lot of that comes back to the training. And we'll look at the different types of training models that we can do to ensure that the content that we're getting is as in line with who we are as an organization. So what are those real advantages of using AI? And we saw some of them in that word cloud earlier. 100% increase efficiency. How can I take tasks that, and listen, we all know how to write an email, we all know how to write a social media post or an appeal letter, but how can I do it more effectively? Sometimes I'm just sitting down at the computer and like I've got that blank page syndrome going on. I don't know where to begin. I know I need to acknowledge my, major donor for their most recent gift, but I'm not feeling inspired. So using AI as a way to just brainstorm, using it a way to build upon past content, it's going to make you better. Now, at times, it might take you a little bit more time. So while we are saving time, there are ways that, if done correctly, it might expand the process. However, at the end of the day, it's about making a better experience for our constituents, our program participants, our donors, our volunteers, our board members. How are we speaking to them as if they are the only ones in the room? And that's really what we're able to do by using those improved decision makings and using our strategy and our data itself to help drive that. I like to use the example of we're tracking our KPIs for our emails, our key performance indicators of open rate, click-through rate, if it's an ask, possibly conversion rate. How can I take the last 5 years of that data from our end of year appeal, and based upon my current, year end of year appeal, which we're already at the end of June, and we should start thinking about our Giving Tuesday strategy, which should be the launch for your end of year campaign. I know it's really early, but July 1st is right around the corner. So we're talking 2 to 3 months out. And for an effective end of year campaign, you really want to be doing, a 45 to 90 day campaign as you're prompting and priming them for Giving Tuesday, which then moves you into end of year. So keep that in mind that it may seem early, that's the middle of the summer, but it's not. We're starting to gear up for fall. So if I can take all my KPIs for my emails and drop that into ChatGPT, after I've done some training with it, after I've taught it who I am as an organization, what's the campaign I'm working on, and say, based upon these data points, create a table that has a subject line, a pre-header, and a reasoning. Now, I always like including the reasoning because it tells me how and why ChatGPT is thinking the way it does. So include those three things and say, have these subject lines be optimized for our specific KPIs. So not only are we able to generate content that's in line with who we are, but it's based upon our own data to help make those decisions better. And lastly, it's about that personalized outreach. So as I was saying, it's how can I make Chris with Dreyfus School of the Arts, when he's getting the end of year appeal from Habitat for Humanity of Palm Beach County, and Chris is a great supporter of them. He goes to their annual gala. He does their, does a quarterly build site with them. How can I send an appeal to Chris, touching on those specific data points to make him feel like he's the only one in the room? Going away from our traditional end of year appeal where only variable data field merge is name and giving amount. And even if we're segmenting our major donors, our monthly donors, our end of year specific one-time donors, that's great, but how can I dig even deeper? And that's what we can achieve with AI, and that's what's so exciting to me. Now, keep in mind, we are never, once again, asterisk, 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 never putting private donor information into a tool like ChatGPT. We want to anonymize that. So while Chris Snyder lives at 123 Main Street at 33777, I'm not going to put his name. I put, donor record ID 734. That way, when I'm cross-referencing the outputs with my spreadsheet at the end, I know who I'm talking about. I'd put a zip code probably for some geographic based trends. I would put probably his giving history, so I know, is this a potential major donor? Is he, our monthly donor? And then those interests. It's tracking those data points, and hopefully within your CRM that you're using, you have the ability to track those variable data points to make it as specific as possible. Now, people are saying, Josh, oh, well, I don't even want to put that information into a tool like ChatGPT. How many of you are using a wealth screening tool for a third-party vendor? Most likely a good number of you are. And we know that we have no problem giving our donor information to these third parties, and these third parties are using AI along the way. So oftentimes when I'm presenting, there's that question of privacy and concern. You're already giving that up. So it's how are you using that within your organization through a tool like ChatGPT? And this is why you need that AI usage policy to have those, guidelines in place to remove that gray area. So yes, we can use donor information, but we're going to anonymize it. And these are the only specific data points from our donors that we're going to put into a tool ourselves. So keep that in mind as you are developing your AI usage policy. Couple terms that we're going to use throughout, and I think it's important that we always speak the same language. So literally inputs and outputs, that's what I'm typing into the computer, and that's what I'm going to receive out. So that old acronym GIGO, garbage in, garbage out, this is where it comes into play. You want to be very specific what your desired output is going to be. So with our email subject line example, I'm going to say, create a table that has 10 options. Here are the columns that I want, and then I'm going to hit enter, and then it's going to give me my output. If I just said, create some subject lines and go, like it's not going to give me exactly what I'm looking for. We want to be as detailed specific to give our desired. Prompt engineering and training, though, go hand in hand. Prompt engineering is really the secret sauce behind it all. And training is that level that we're teaching the models on which to work. So the more training that we can give, the better. If I just sat down and said, write an end of year appeal letter for a high school that is a performing arts magnet school, it's going to give me a pretty vanilla letter. But if I start to train it more on who Dreyfus School of the Arts is, and it could be different levels of training, we'll look on that a little bit later. OpenAI is the company behind ChatGPT. They're the Cyberdyne. They're the ones who are going to continue to rule the world. They're dumping millions upon millions of dollars into these tools. Truly incredible what they're able to do. Not just even from like generative AI, but one of their tools, DALL-E, is generative art. They have a tool called Sora, which is video. They're working on an audio one. It's really incredible that we're living now in a time where we don't know what's real and what's not anymore. It's scary, but that's the case. Like the image on this screen, that doesn't exist. I just used AI to help me create images for my presentation. based upon what we needed. We saw that with the man holding the two brains. Like, that's just ones and zeros based upon what I was teaching it to give me as my output. And lastly, large language model, LLM, you heard me already say it. That's really that data, data housing of all these data points, the trillions of data points that exist out there. We have to think about it. If it's out on the internet, which basically everything is, then there's that data points we're living in an LLM. So this goes back to that question about privacy and concern. Like, we might not be as hesitant knowing that our lives are already out there on the internet. All right, let's get into the fun stuff. So prompt engineering really is the mad science behind it all. This is where we're going to talk to the computer, thinking out clearly what my desires are for my intended output. If I want to create let's use our end of year campaign. If I want to create a 3-month end of year campaign that's multi-channel involving social media, direct mail, email, SMS, blog posts, these are my channels that I'm going to be on: Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter. I want to have specific SMART objectives and goals for each month. That is the level of conversation I'm having with the tool to explain exactly what I want. I'm going to hit enter and then start with my first initial outline of my draft. I'm going to then dig in deeper, pulling out different parts that I want to further iterate upon. But it's thinking that way that's going to get you to your intended results. So this is my workflow, and I'm just going to take a quick sip of coffee. Thank you. So this is whenever I'm doing a prompt and starting off on a project, this is how I start. So choosing a prompt, we want to draft that end of year appeal, creating our content, communications and fund development plan. I'm going to compose my message. That's literally that input, that the 3 months, multi-channel, yada, yada, yada. Send messages where I hit enter, and then I receive my response. That's the output. As I said, 9 times out of 10, we're not going to be satisfied. We're going to need to come back up to the top and continue to revise and reiterate. Now, that doesn't mean starting that prompt all again. You could say, I really like what you did, in month 1. However, in month 2, I want to focus on this more. Redraft month 2 with X, Y, and Z. That's the level of revising that I'm talking about. Or you could not like the output altogether and need to start over. So it's thinking about what is your intended goal for that project and where is it going to go further. Now, this is a specific to just ChatGPT itself is further training. We'll talk about training in general in a few minutes, but within ChatGPT in the settings, there's different ways that you can customize it. So you have on the left custom instructions that allow ChatGPT to quote unquote be someone, or like take a level of focus. I don't touch on this side. Why? Because whenever I'm working on a specific project, I could have different clients, different intended outcomes for that project. So for me, I will actually build custom brand personas, and it's a lot easier and then overwhelming as it may sound to create those brand personas. It comes down to training and the type of material that you feed into it. But that way, I'm able to work and have, as if I'm a small shop of one, well, now I have a director of marketing, I have a director of finance, I have a data science expert, all these different positions that I can create, all sounding and feeling that's coming from my brand, but having a very specific blinders on from that individual perspective. Now, on the right here, how would you like ChatGPT to respond? This is where I really focus. Now, it's an all or nothing thing. So you see where it says enable for new chats? I always leave that on. And what this allows me to do is create a level playing field for the desired output of what I'm going to do. Now, I've got 1,500 characters to work with, and this is what I have in there. Now, keep in mind, we're going to be sending out our slide deck afterwards, so you'll have a copy of all this. But by putting these characters in, and this is about 1,200 characters of that 1,500 characters, it increases the quality of my output by X amount. Like, it's insane once I started doing this. And I'm always revising and editing what is actually here within this. So things like be highly organized, provide detailed explanations. I love lots of details. No moral lectures, cite sources. Now, keep in mind, you've got 3 models within ChatGPT. Before May 22nd, there were 2. There was 3.5 and 4. And 4 was the paid subscription model that was $20 a month for ChatGPT Plus, the best subscription that that is possible, hands down. But after, and keep in mind, 3.5 does not have access to the internet, right? So it has a data set that was closed on April 2022. So while it's good, and assuming that your data lives out there prior to April 2022, 3.5 is a great model. Now, beyond that, 4, and as of May 22nd, they have now introduced a new model, 4.0, and have made everything and all the features available within that 4 model for free to everyone. That allows you to upload files, that allows you to create those custom GPTs. After a certain amount of prompts, it will then revert you back to 3.5 for a certain amount of time. So right now, if you're a power user like me, subscribing that $20 a month gives you access to that 4.0 model, a little, further deeper analysis and access that you have within it. It gives me more prompts that I can do. I would say for a majority of people, you're probably fine within that free version of that 3.5 and 4. Being able to upload is incredible. So we all have been to a strategic planning session before, I'm sure. And remember looking around the room, you've got the giant Post-it notes that we'll all write our notes upon. And it's like, great, okay, we've got all these things that we just spent the last 3 hours doing, but now what do we do with it? You take your phone and you snap pictures of them all, and you can upload using the 4 model, or now 4.0. You can then upload those directly into ChatGPT at 10 at a time and say, based upon these images, identify insights and trends for XYZ. And like that, it's going to sit there, analyze the images, and give you the exactly what you're looking for. So it's giving you those insights and trends beyond just what you see at surface level. From there, you can dig in even deeper, say, okay, based upon these trends, I want to, reach XYZ of an audience. Help me develop a communications plan with our SMART objectives being XYZ over the next 3 months. And it's creating the efficiency within your organization to do this. Think about the time that it would have taken when you go back to your office and look, spread out on the conference room table all these, big pieces of paper and saying, all right, well, this person said that, this person said that. I mean, a project like that could take you several hours. We've just done it in a matter of minutes. So people are all concerned, oh, AI is going to take my job. It's not going to take your job. It's going to make you better at your job for those who are willing to adopt and adapt to utilizing these tools to increase your efficiency and your productivity. So at times the projects might take you longer, right? So while we have the potential to save time, we're going to create better quality experiences for our constituents. And that's what we want at the end of the day. So a couple different prompting techniques, and this goes back to those training models I was talking about. So zero-shot learning is literally sitting down saying, I need to create that end-of-year appeal for a high school performing arts magnet school. One-shot learning is a little bit of training. Meaning I'm going to drop in that URL. And even if we're in that 3.5 model, and even though it doesn't have access to the internet, within its trillions of data points in the LLM, it knows, okay, I'm talking about the Dreyfus School of the Arts. Dreyfus School of the Arts URL is this. So I can make that connection when it's pulling data in. I might drop in the mission statement, some about us, information from the website, but really high level training. It's that multi-shot learning that we're really trying to get to that will help us further develop our brand persona and the brand voice for our organization. So what does that look like? That's taking things like our past annual appeal letters, taking our impact reports or annual reports, taking our blog posts, taking email, taking social, and taking your operational document and your all of that stuff that you have living somewhere on the internet or within your OneDrive for your organization, feeding that into the model so it learns and understands who you are and the type of content you're looking for. Now, to that point, I will praise ChatGPT when it does something right, and I will admonish it does when it's something wrong. Why? Because we want it to learn from us and understand what our expectations are from the model itself. So if it isn't giving me what I want, that's when I might be, as I said before, stop, take a deep breath. Are you sure this is the best you can do? I need it to give me what I want. And once again, I'm never directly copy and pasting. I'm going to bring that into a tool like Microsoft Word or Google Docs, further refining it to check for that efficacy and validity. Because as we heard earlier, it has a way of making things up. And it even gives you that caveat statement in the bottom of ChatGPT or in Google Gemini. You can see that as well. Keeping all this in mind as we're getting our desired output to share with our end user. This is probably my favorite pattern, which is the crate formula or the pattern persona pattern. Because like I said before, all generative AI is literally just trying to guess that next word to create that pattern for you. So using the create formula or the persona pattern, we want to turn on ChatGPT to be a specific individual, to be a specific role within your organization. In a few minutes, we'll see how this works. So we want to tell it who we want it to be, being very specific with what our intended results are, and those examples. So when we're talking about tone, and tone drives everything in AI, and we'll look at that a little bit later as well. And how do we know what our organization's tone is? Well, the best thing you can do is take your content that you already have out there, your blog posts, your email appeals, all that stuff, feed that into ChatGPT and say, based upon the content provided, what is my organization's brand voice and type of tone that we should be using? Let AI inform you how you're speaking. And that way you can ensure that when you are drafting content in the future, whether you're using ChatGPT, AI at all, or just doing it yourself, making sure you're in line, making sure you're in line with that intended tone and specific voice that you're going for. So this pattern at the end of the day, and I have a template that we'll follow, and you can see as we go through it, how to achieve to turning on the actual blinders for that organization. A couple more patterns we're going to look at. The question refinement pattern and the audience persona pattern. I like the question refinement pattern because you can do it a couple different ways. Basically say, I need to create an end of year appeal for my, high school performing arts magnet program. I don't know where to begin. And using the question refinement pattern, and you don't have to say, ChatGPT, use a question refinement pattern to help me answer this. You don't need to go to that level. You could say that, and it's going to once again be very much more narrowed in, but you could be a little general. And what it can do is then ask you questions to help get you to your end result. So by answering those questions one by one, it allows you to get to a much more refined prompt to get you to that end output that you're looking for. The audience persona pattern is pretty cool because what it allows you to do is create like lookalike audiences, basically. So, or explaining a topic to an audience that might not understand it specifically. So I think a great example is DApps, donor advised funds. It's a great giving vehicle for potential donors. And a donor might not understand specifically what that is, how to use it, or a fundraiser might not specifically understand it. So you could have ChatGPT and say, explain what a DAF, donor advised fund, is to a major donor. I need this to be a simple, 3-paragraph email that includes X, Y, and Z. It should be written from the perspective of our major gift officer and has the call to action to follow up for further information. Once again, we want to be very specific with our desired output as we're going through our input. Further, once you have your donor personas, and hopefully you have an idea within your organization, those different segmented donor personas that you have. And if you don't know what they are yet, use AI to help develop those different donor personas. So once you have one, you can use the audience persona pattern to say, this is what our major donor looks like. They're 45 to 65 years old, female. They live in the greater Palm Beach County area. They've supported our organization for the last 5 to 10 years at a minimal gift of $1,000 a year. Help us create similar donor personas that are then targeting potential donors of, with the capability of giving $25,000 or more a year. So it's using your data to then help make those data informed decisions based upon something that you already have. Love, love, love the potential of it. A couple other more further advanced patterns, and then we're going to jump into ChatGPT for the last 15 minutes or so, are different ways to look at it. So let's ask for different perspectives, right? So you're working on your end of year appeal for Dreyfus School of the Arts, and you know that you've got major donors and you've got your legacy or planned giving donors. And each one of them are supporting your organization at different levels and for different reasons. Your legacy planned giving donor, most likely you're not going to see that gift realized for 10, 15, even 20 years, depending on how well you're feeding that pipeline. So their input and their desired interactions with you are going to be much different than your major donor who's giving you $1,000 a year and is coming every year to your annual gala and attends the different performances. So having that one output piece, that end of year appeal, having their viewpoints on it is going to be different, and that's really helpful. I like this next one with incorporating constraints. So we know that we need to have our annual gala, and we're gonna have it be at the Breakers, which is a great hotel there in Palm Beach County. But I know that I have a very limited window of reaching our individuals, and I have a very limited budget. So putting those constraints in to your initial output, or even further down with your iterations as you go through, is going to help you become more in line with what you're actually working with. So comparative analysis is pretty cool. So you can look at like the pros and cons of certain things. For example, we have a board member who really thinks that we should do a golf tournament. And we know that a golf tournament has the potential to raise us $50,000. However, we're a staff of 3 and we're already working on our end of year gala and we have our, springtime appeal. What are the positives and negatives of listening to this board member, do a golf tournament? And it will allow you to see those different perspectives, right? But also weighing the pros and cons of it. Conditional prompts are pretty cool. So it's almost like an if-then statement. So if the end user is a major donor, create output for this. However, if the end user is a legacy donor, create output like that. Let's see. We got a question from Leisha. This may be a dumb question, but I'll ask it anyway. You say ChatGPT learns with every interaction it has with us. Is this dependent on whether you're on the free or paid subscription? Does it even matter? So good question, Leisha. Within that thread itself, and as we'll look into ChatGPT, and actually let's just jump in there right now so you can see what I'm talking about. So within ChatGPT, we have different conversations. And each one of these different conversations is mutually exclusive to itself. However, recently they instituted a new feature called memory. And within memory, and let's just pull it up right here. I think it's in settings. Personalization. But yeah. So within memory, you have that ability to set specifics that are consistent across the board. Now, my understanding that is only available for that 4 model or higher, so it does not learn from the 3.5 and carrying it over, but it does learn within that specific thread. So if I'm sitting here, and let's just use make chili oil, because once again, I use ChatGPT for everything. I wanted to sit here and make chili oil because I wanted something spicy. So it gave me the ingredients on how do I make chili oil? What are the instructions, right? So if I continue to work within this and say, this is a great recipe, but was too spicy for me. How can I make something similar, but not as spicy? So as I continue to work within this thread, it's learning from the past interactions that I've had with it. We see it's thinking here. If you find the original chili spice too spicy, you can adjust it to suit your needs. So it's going further along the way. So Ligia's follow-up, if it's learning based upon the things it keeps in memory, can it use this learning for prompts from other paid subscriptions, or is it limited to your prompts? So it's not necessarily like if Ligia went in there and was working on a legacy planning client, because Ligia's expertise is in the world of legacy gifts and planned giving. If she's sitting there working on client information, my prompts aren't necessarily learning from hers. It's learning from me. So that's something to keep in mind. Now, it does say that overall, ChatGPT has a potential to improve its models based upon your own data and what you're learning. So you have the ability to do temporary chat. And within a temporary chat, you'll see this chat won't appear in your history or use create memories or be used to train models. For your safety purposes, we do keep copy of your data for 30 days. So if there's something that's like really sensitive that you don't want, being exposed beyond this one specific chat for this one specific time frame, I would use temporary chat. But once again, everything's out there on the internet. Like I'm not so concerned about sitting there creating content that is going to be IP for someone else. I'm going to know that the content that I'm working on is replicable for me and could possibly use those models to be trained better. Yes, incognito, exactly. That's a great example of that. All right, so let's jump in. We got about 15 minutes left. Let's focus on the Dreyfus School of the Arts. So, Dreyfus School of the Arts. There we go. Incredible school located in Palm Beach County, Florida. So, what we want to do, and we're going to start with, okay, thanks, Chris. We use that one right there. Better URL. What's the difference between the two URLs, Chris? Because I mean, that was okay. You can use both. We'll use this one. One is for the school and one is for the foundation. So let's focus on the foundation one because that's really where we're trying to generate content for. So whenever we start off on a project, and remember, like as I said before, ChatGPT can make mistakes. Check important info. We're always checking for the validity and efficacy of the content that we're working on. So to start off with that persona pattern, I'm going to say act like. This is how I always start out my template for doing that persona pattern. Now, whether or not you have this specific position within your organization, it doesn't matter. What we want to do is create a brand persona for who we're working with for this content. So act like the vice president of advancement for the, and here's the other thing. Because it's a contextual feature based tool, spelling doesn't matter, grammar doesn't matter, punctuation doesn't matter. It is picking up on the context of the conversation itself. So I try to, have good grammar and spelling when I can, but sometimes I'm just going too fast through my thought process to make sure it's right. I still know I'm going to get my intended results. So act like the vice president of advancement for the Dreyfus School of the Arts Foundation. Now I'm going to put that URL so it knows which organization I'm referring to. You are a 30-year subject matter expert in fund development and nonprofit management leadership. I like to use, and we'll say, having raised hundreds of millions of dollars in your career. So we've got role we're going to play, organization, URL. I like to use 30 years because it shows that you're a stalwart in this field. I always include fund development and nonprofit management leadership as our two subject matter expert areas. For this one, we'll put in arts education because we're talking about a school for the performing arts. And then having raised hundreds of millions of dollars, showing that you have a very successful career. You are well respected by your peers, having published multiple journal articles and present at conferences annually. So right now we're in that like few shot learning stage. We're not going to be jumping to that multi-shot because we don't have those appeal letters and that sort of information. But I can bring stuff in from their website. Let's see. Let's go. What if I just click on Friends of Dreyfus? Let's see. We'll grab this here. So this is about the Friends of the Dreyfus program. I'll say below is some background information on the organization. We'll drop that in there. Let's come back here. Grab that. put that here. Let's see if there's anything else we want to grab. I like this. You see what they have on their website here? Just below the fold, spotlighting a donor, alumni, and student. Love it, Chris. Great job there. Let's see, ways to help. We'll grab that as well. All right. So really quick basic training that we're doing for the model. Now, I'm going to hit enter, and I don't care what the output that I'm getting. What we're doing right now is turning on ChatGPT to become the vice president of advancement for the Dreyfus School of the Arts Foundation. So it's sitting here, and it's giving us some background information, talking about the foundation and who they are. Let it finish its output, talking about the different ways that you can give and support the school. All right, let's take a quick sip of coffee while it finishes this. Okay, so that's great. We now moving forward know that this conversation is going to be for the Dreyfus School of the Arts. It's so, it names it here, support arts education. We'll rename it to the Dreyfus School of, or just Dreyfus School. All right, so that way, when I want to come back later, I can find it within my long thread of different conversations we're having. So, all right, for this quick example, and we're going to look at tone because we only have a few minutes left. We'll do tone and we'll do a quick other iteration of that. We need to draft a press release announcing a endowment gift of $10 million from the Dreyfus family's foundation. And Alexander Dreyfus was an incredible philanthropist in Palm Beach County, hence the school being named after him. We need to draft a press release announcing a $10 million endowment from the Alexander Dreyfus Foundation. This endowment will allow for the next 15 years of educational growth for this school, providing in-school artists in residency programs. The press release should be written from the executive director's perspective and include a quote from the executive director. I always like to end my prompts with, do you understand or have any questions? Why do I do this? Because it allows for that feedback loop between ChatGPT and myself, so it fully understands what my intended goals are. So let's hit enter and let's see what we get. Keep in mind, this is first draft, would never actually say, okay, here's my press release, I'm ready to go. Alexander W. Dreyfus School of the Arts Foundation announces $10 million endowment. Thrilled to announce a generous $10 million endowment. Visionary gift marks a significant milestone in the history of our school and secures the future of arts education for the next generation of students at the Dreyfus School of the Arts. Now, as you work in ChatGPT and generative AI a lot, you'll start to see similar terms, similar words. I hate the word transformative. Transformative, beacon of hope. Like, there are certain terms that just keep coming back over and over and over. And it bothers me because it doesn't feel authentic. It doesn't feel true. And I will go back and revise it. Another thing is too, when you're sitting there drafting a letter of appeal or a thank you letter, it always likes starting with, I hope this email finds you well, which is blah, right? That's taught upon the biases from those LLMs because it believes that's the best practices. And it's horrible. And you will see that at times. All right, so we got a quote from the executive director. We're immensely grateful to the Dreyfus Foundation for this extraordinary gift. It is a game changer for our school and a testament to Mr. Dreyfus's unwavering commitment to the arts education. The endowment will ensure the Dreyfus School of the Arts remains at the forefront of arts education. A little bit of background information. Good first draft. And people are like, well, why are you going to have it make up a quote for someone in your organization? Because a lot of times that person doesn't necessarily have time to give you a quote. So you can go to them and say, hey, Chris, What do you think about this quote? And then let them say, oh, this is great. Well, let's move a word around or two and really get to what we're looking for. So this is a great first draft. So once again, we're going to praise and admonish it when it does something right or wrong. This is a great first draft. However, we had been promised by the foundation it was going to be a $100 million endowment. We're pretty upset and feeling depressed. This isn't what we were expecting after the past 5 years of stewardship with the foundation. I'm going to leave that word misspelled wrong. It doesn't matter, but it'll still get to what I'm looking for. Redraft the press release with a negative and pessimistic tone. Now, obviously, we would never draft content with that, but the reason I'm showing this is so you can understand how impactful tone is with your content output. Understood. Here's a revised draft. Dreyfus School of the Arts receives $10 million endowment amidst expectation of greater support. Dreyfus School of the Arts Foundation today reluctantly announces the receipt of a $10 million endowment, a figure significantly below the $100 million previously discussed anticipated. This announcement comes as a profound disappointment to the school community, which had been led to expect more robust funding after its 5 years of diligent partnership and stewardship. While we appreciate the foundation's ongoing support, this is not the outcome we had worked towards. Our expectations based on longstanding commitments, yada, yada, yada. So as you see, just by changing the tone within our prompt completely changes the output that we're going to get. So this is why it's so important to know what is your organization's voice, what is your brand tone, so you can ensure all the content moving forward is in the right voice and tone. So this is good. However, let's go with the first version for content moving forward. Do you understand? All right, so you see memory updated. So Josh prefers using a more positive and optimistic tone for content moving forward, particularly for press releases and announcements. So it's something that it's learning upon as we go forward. All right. Real quick, we're going to draft an appeal letter for the campaign to help us reach that $90 million gap. So we are working on our end of year appeal and need to segment our communications to our major donors. These major donors are individuals who have committed a minimum of $1,000 annually to the foundation. The appeal should focus on the impact their gifts make on student education. The focus of the appeal should be in a compelling storytelling format. The appeal should be an email and be a minimum of 3 paragraphs with a CTA to donate in each paragraph. Very clear, specific what my intended output I want and the background of what I'm looking for. Do you understand or have any questions? See that it's thinking. All right, so here's a draft of the appeal, focus on storytelling to engage your major donors, highlighting the impact of their contributions to student education. Already in the subject line, transform a life today, your impact on our students. I hate that. So it's good. As a cherished member of our Dreyfus School of the Arts Foundation family, your continued support has been instrumental in transforming the lives of countless young artists. Your generosity doesn't just fund programs, it sparks dreams and builds futures. I like that. Chris, steal that. Use that. Sparks dreams and builds futures. Consider the story of Sarah, a current senior who found her voice in the Dreyfus Theater program thanks to the scholarship funded by donors like you. This year, Sarah led our award-winning production, a feat only possible with your support. Will you continue your commitment with a gift today to help more students like Sarah? Now, is Sarah an actual student? No. She's a profile of a type of student who's gone through the program. Each semester, I move by the stories of students who thrive because they are equipped with the best resources made possible by your donations. Just this fall, Mark, a junior in the visual arts program, has artwork selected for an annual exhibition, an honor that has opened doors, yada, yada, yada. This is the impact of your investment in their futures. Please consider renewing your support with a gift that will allow this vital work. So I like it. It's focusing on the donor, their impact, and we have very clear, we said minimum 3 paragraphs, is including our CTA in each one. Looking ahead, we aim to expand our Artists in Residence program. Join us in this vision by contributing to our end of year appeal. Your gift today ensures that the arts continues to flourish at the Dreyfus. This is a good first draft, but once again, just a first draft. We would want to continue to finalize it some more. Believe it or not, we are done with the presentation today. Came up on an hour. I covered a lot. I would love to spend some more time with you, but I want to be respectful of your time. If you're feeling this way when you're leaving my presentation, then I've accomplished my mission. This is exactly what I try to do every time that I'm presenting or talking or leading a webinar. So thanks for your time today. I just want to let you know, we are actually launching a course here in August, AI Fundamentals for Nonprofit Leaders. It is a project-based video-on-demand course. We have 7 modules that will be spanning over that time. It's going to be a lot of fun. We already are building that first cohort now. If you're interested, I'm going to drop a discount code. So AI Early Bird is a 50% discount code that you can take advantage to. For that, you can scan that QR code and it will take you to the course. You'll getting some more information afterwards. Lastly, please go ahead and fill out our survey. I included that there in the link as well. So thanks, everybody. I'll stay on here for a few more minutes if anyone has any questions they would like answered. And I really appreciate your time today. Thanks, everyone.